habits. We're going to talk about that. Pushover or bitch. There is a better way. And if you're tired of feeling like you're walking on eggshells with your team, or you're being the boss that no one respects, stick around because I'm going to try to turn this upside down on you today. Now, I can only cover so much in these little live videos that I do, so I'm going to invite you at the end for how we can continue this conversation because I think it's an important one, especially because so many people were excited about it. So in the next, 15 minutes-ish, I'm going to try to show you some really practical strategies that you can start to use on how you can do things like set clear boundaries, hold your team accountable, and earn their respect without sacrificing kindness or your sanity, right? Because most of us have this struggle around wanting to be liked. That is natural. Like as a feminine, as a woman, human being, we want community. We want to be in a group of people. We want to all get along. We are naturally very nurturing. And we think, falsely, I think, oftentimes, that being a boss means being everyone's friend. But of course, if you're trying to be the nice boss all the time, you really can end up in a place, and I know many of you are here right now, where you're feeling overworked, underappreciated, and very frustrated. The flip side, of course, is you crack down hard because you get completely fed up, and then you feel really guilty, and it's exhausting because that cycle is usually what continues. I like to think of it like a pendulum, where we tend to like swing one way or the other, but we can't seem to stop and live in the middle somewhere. So we're either like full pushover, being so nice, trying to be accommodating, get along with everybody, and then finally we snap and we swing all the way back to the other side, and now we're ticked off and either yelling at everyone or making new rules or whatever it is, and we've flipped to the exact opposite end. And both of those ends are probably not the best ends for a leader to be in. We should try to be somewhere in the middle. So we often feel stuck. Like we don't know how to be liked or feel good in that way we want to feel good and then be effective at the same time. So we're going to completely drop the idea today. You're just going to let it leave your brain forever that you have to choose between being liked and being a boss. That is not a choice you have to make. The truth is, the most confident and well-respected bosses don't choose. They embody both authority and empathy. So they get both of those things. They're not picking which one they want. Being a great boss is about creating a culture of mutual respect, not just about being the most liked person in the room. So let's talk about a few like very practical strategies or things that you can do to help start to create this culture, this way of being in your practice. What I'm going to talk about today, there is nothing revolutionary here, and there's probably nothing that I haven't talked about in some capacity before. I've just tried to like lump it together into one sort of concise thing for you guys, because a lot of the things I teach are all about leadership and communication and culture, and all of those things come into play into you being seen as that boss and leader that you want to be seen as. So let's talk about the first thing. One thing you can start to do right away. You can set clear expectations early and discuss them often. So if you set clear expectations right from the start, you will have less ambiguity, which when ambiguity is present, guess what? We get nothing but misunderstandings and power struggles. If people do not know what you expect from them, they will guess, they will make it up, and they will do whatever feels natural, normal, good to them. And unfortunately, workplaces don't run very well that way because we need people to be doing certain things in certain ways for our practice to be thriving. So at your next team meeting, as an example, if you haven't done this in the last 3 months, 6 months, 3 to 6 months, if you haven't done this in the last 3 to 6 months, start doing this now. Outline at your next team meeting exactly what you expect from your team members. And if you have never done this, this is massively powerful. And then what you're going to do is tie those expectations to your practice's mission and values. And hopefully you have something that talks about what you guys believe in, what you stand for, what's important to you, and you can tie them back in. Now you can have expectations that are global, meaning everyone in the practice. These are the expectations for everyone. And then you can have expectations that are specific to different roles within the practice. I would say If that feels like too much, start with global expectations. What are things that you expect of all people? This could be things like how you look when you show up to work, how you smell, as an example, how you speak to other people, whether you act as a team player or not. I mean, the list can go on, and you can be as creative as you want here, but have a list of expectations. When people don't know what you expect, they will make it up. Okay? Don't leave space for that. Because everything we say after this, if those expectations are in place, are going to be a little bit easier for you. Number 2, you can start practicing and learn how to say no with grace, meaning how to hold your own ground and make sure that the things that you have said are going to be a certain way are going to be that way. Saying no doesn't make you mean. There are certain ways you can say no that some people might take as being mean, but saying no just makes you clear. A team that knows what to expect from you will perform better, and saying no is part of that. So you can start small here. For a lot of women, saying no is a very difficult thing to ask. Work on it. Practice saying no to small requests with kindness, but firmness. Here's an example for you. No, I won't approve this time off request last minute, but here's what we can do for next time. I always say you need to practice saying exactly what you mean and meaning exactly what you say. The meaning what you say part is coming next. We're going to talk about accountability, but women have a natural tendency to talk around issues, to speak around things, to give people the gist maybe and hope that they'll figure it out themselves. We have to stop doing that. You need to say exactly what you mean. And keep this in mind, it is not your responsibility, nor has it ever been your responsibility to make sure that everybody is happy about all things at all times. Not your job. Your job is to make sure that everyone knows what they should be doing, that you provide whatever resources and tools and such that they need to be able to do the thing that they're doing, for you to maybe be their cheerleader, right? Cheer them on, make sure they're, getting help, give feedback where you can give feedback. It is not your job to make other people happy. So if you are running around and worried that your words, like what you know you have to say for the good of you, the practice, other people, whatever that is going to make someone upset or unhappy or frustrated or any of those negative emotions that you don't like, stop making that your responsibility. It is not. You are responsible for your own words and actions only, and you can do your best to make sure that words come out with kindness and empathy and respect, but you cannot have control, and you never will, over how that is taken by another person. So stop pretending you know how they're going to take it, and stop pretending you're responsible for how they take it. You are not. Let yourself off the hook. There's my little bit of coaching for this call, okay? We're on to number 3, which is accountability. I like to say accountability equals love. I love my team, and holding your team accountable is a form of care because it helps them to grow. It's not about being harsh. It's about clarity and consistency. When we don't hold people accountable, we're basically saying we don't care how they do that thing. And we're saying that if that leads to a negative consequence for our patients or for someone else in the practice, we don't care about that. That isn't kind. And it definitely isn't clear. So you need to make sure that if there is a certain expectation or standard that you have in place for the practice, that you have a consequence for not following through. Sometimes that consequence is simply a sit-down one-on-one conversation, but there needs to be a consequence. And then you need to follow through on your consequences. So let's say you have a team member who is chronically late or maybe underperforming. You're going to have a respectful but direct conversation with them about that thing in private. It might go like this. I noticed you've been late 3 times this week. Let's talk about why that's happening and how we can fix it. That is going to get you to a solution way better than yelling and screaming at them, way better than being passive aggressive with them, and way better than just ignoring it and hoping that it goes away, which is often a strategy that people take. So remember, accountability equals love. It is not about being harsh. It's about loving on your team. Okay, number 4 that I'm going to give you today. Praise publicly, correct privately. Building loyalty with your team, which is what we all want. We want team members who come and stay with us for as long as possible. It means you need to recognize wins publicly, but address issues privately. It makes your team feel very appreciated, and you don't ever want to put someone in a position where they're going to feel embarrassed. So make a habit of acknowledging all the positive things that you see people do in your practice, either during the clinic day, at huddle, at team meeting, but make positive praise. And I like to call it feedback because, and I've taught this in just just the video I did last week or the week before about how you give feedback, but make sure that you are giving feedback, positive feedback, as much as you possibly can. When you are acknowledging publicly constantly the things people are doing good, right, well, doesn't have to be perfect. Please don't wait for perfect. They will continue to do more and more and more of those things. If we don't say anything and we only talk to people when things are not going well, they anticipate that every time you're going to open your mouth to them, it's because they're not doing something well. And so then there's always this anxiety and resistance around you when you're going to try to have a conversation with them. We need to fill them up with good things. It means more good things will come. It also means when you have to have a direct, icky feeling, not so yummy conversation with them at a point in the future, they aren't terrified and freaking out at the time it's going to happen. And maybe they're going to actually hear some of the words that you say so you can get actual change happening. Okay, number 5. Be consistent, but also be human. This is about flexibility. Your team wants a boss who is steady and reliable, but also someone that understands the challenges of just being a freaking human being. So it is okay to have a little bit of flexibility, but you have to have consistency to build trust. So let's go over an example. This will help with this one. If your policy within the practice is not to allow last-minute changes to the schedule, then don't make exceptions unless there's an emergency. See? We can't have a rule and make exceptions all the time. If we're going to have a rule, we need to have a rule, and then make exceptions in an emergency. So there's a little bit of flexibility there. You have to show that you can be empathetic without compromising the rules. This consistency but human piece is the piece where I think the feminine shines, like truly shines, because we do have a lot of natural empathy within us. We want to help people. We want people to have a good day. We want them to feel good about themselves and what they're doing and all of that. And so this is a place where when you do all the other things and you can do this, I feel like, that's just like the kick butt combination. So there's a few things I want you to keep in mind. Being a great boss isn't about being well liked or the most liked person in the office. You will be well liked if you're a great boss, but you don't need to be the most liked person in the room, and you don't have to be the toughest person either. It's about being someone that your team trusts, someone that will be clear, will be honest, will hold them accountable, and will lift them up. And then respect coming from the team to you is going to happen no matter what. So I want to challenge you with one thing, because oftentimes we can hear and learn things and it feels really good to have that knowledge and we get excited about it, but then we just leave it as knowledge up in our brain. It just sits there. It just stays. And no change happens just from knowledge alone. You have to actually implement something to start to see change. And so what I want you to do is pick one area, one thing of like the 5 things I mentioned. Is there one area where you can start to set a clearer boundary, or hold someone accountable in a respectful way, or come up with expectations for your next team meeting? Is there one thing you can do that you're not currently doing that you can start trying to do, not just trying, doing immediately? Because little baby steps in the right direction is how we make long-lasting, sustainable change. It's not like you're going to wake up one day and snap your fingers and be like the most perfect boss in the world. No one's perfect. I still blow up sometimes and I still become a pushover sometimes, but I understand what skills and tools and strategies I need to use to be the best leader that I can be. It doesn't mean I can always be that leader every single day. Give yourself grace, if nothing else. That's not a thing. But knowing and then taking baby steps to that end constantly, that's how lives change. That's how everything becomes different. I was such a bad leader 15 years ago. Like so crappy. And I would consider myself a good leader now. And it's because of all the little tiny changes I've made over time. And then they just become the way you are. And I'm always still working in the areas where I know I'm lacking, but that's how change comes. And that's how all of a sudden you blink your eyes and you go, oh, like things are so much better than they used to be because I made all those little tiny changes. So here's what I think is going to happen from this talk today, because it's often what happens when I feel like something's resonating. People are going to have questions about how you actually do this, or I triggered something that made you think of something else that you want to ask me specifically. It's always open to everyone in this group. You can send me a DM about anything, anytime. I'm not joking. I answer every DM that I get. And if there is a resource I can point you to, or there is something that I've created that could help you, or I know of something that would give you what you need, or I can just tell you the answer, like whatever that is, I will give you a resource. This group exists because I really, really love trying to shortcut things for people. And like, honestly, I feel good when I feel like I can help you guys. That's all I want to do. So you can leave a comment down below with a question. If you don't want it to be public, just send me a DM. And let's work together on getting you to that place where you feel really good about the leader and boss that you're showing up as every day at work. It's so worthwhile. I get goosebumps thinking about it because of how good it feels when that is going well. It just makes everything so much easier. So I just want to thank you guys for tuning in, because you all rock. I feel like we're creating this like lovely little community, and I just can't wait to get to know all of you better. I don't know what I'm going to talk about next week, because unless someone shoots me a great idea, I do this all the time. I just make something up that I think you guys want to hear about, and then that's what I'll do next week. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I love my Wednesdays. This is like my most fun thing I do all week, and I hope to see you soon.